Hello, my name is Chevanice Diedrich, and I am the Senior Program Officer for Racial Justice at Trinity Church Wall Street Philanthropies, and I'm joined by Ashley Ellis, founder and co-executive director of Breathe Circles.
And today we're going to be presenting Who Keeps the Keeper, a program rooted in collective care and healing for movement practitioners.
Trinity Church Wall Street is an Episcopal parish located in Lower Manhattan that uses its tools of philanthropy, its convening power, and its voice to advance its mission of building neighborhoods, leadership, and capacity. Our four strategic initiatives, housing and homelessness, racial justice, mission real estate development, and leadership development, make up our philanthropies team. And together it seeks to advance an equitable society in which the allocation of resources and opportunities are not determined by race. Our grant making supports a range of organizations, from small reentry groups to large advocacy organizations working on national issues. During the pandemic, we noticed that our grantees were experiencing challenges as they had to make major shifts to services to respond to multiple social, economic, and political crises. Grantees also had to balance increased demand for services in the face of decreased revenues and funding cuts. Further, the long haul nature of the pandemic, mainly constricting safety protocols, only exacerbated employee stress and concerns about financial stability. Finally, we learned that many of our leaders were forced to prioritize meeting service demands over staff wellness. These factors, with the reality that nonprofit workers were also living through the trauma of the pandemic, created a sector in crisis. Studies on the state of nonprofit employees during the pandemic found that close to three-quarters of women reported experiencing high levels of stress, exhaustion, and inability to cope, and low professional fulfillment. Over 80% of organization leaders reported feeling concerned about the emotional health and well being of their employees. And over 50% of nonprofit workers reported experiencing a mental health challenge at work during the pandemic. However, almost 30% of those reported feeling too fearful to share their struggles with their employers. So all of these concerns, as I mentioned, created a sector in crisis where many professionals questioned how long they could last in the field. Recognizing these trends emerging among our grantees and the larger nonprofit sector, we realized we needed to do something to support our grantees. We had a series of informal conversations to hear what they needed to sustain themselves during the pandemic and beyond. Our grantees shared that they needed opportunities to incorporate self care into their daily work and daily lives. Our organization leaders shared that they needed help developing practices that promote a healthy work environment, that prioritizes the mental health and emotional well being of its employees. And finally, more junior staff shared that they would benefit from opportunities to engage with and learn from peers. So we searched for an organization that could provide all of those services. And fortunately, we were able to partner with one of our existing grantees, Breathe Circles.
Breathe circles. To breathe means to be balanced, restored, empowered, affirmed, transformed, healed, and embodied. A sector of the Breathe Collective is a Black woman-led restorative justice consultancy dedicated to creating cultures of connectivity, collective healing, and transformation. Breathe seeks to support organizations and individuals by providing holistic counseling, training, technical assistance, and coaching to individuals to strengthen in their practice. Breathe builds communal organizational capacity using restorative justice, peacemaking circles, community care models as a way to sustain individuals and communities in their freedom work. As direct service providers, frontline workers, healers, and keepers, Breathe knew exactly what it meant to be all the time holding space for community while also trying to hold and create space for their own personal healing in the midst of constant structural harm. And so Who Keeps the Keeper was envisioned as a response to that personal and collective burnout, with a vision of creating life-giving and sustaining space for us to continuously do our work, not just for ourselves, but for those in our larger community as well. When we created Who Keeps the Keeper, what we envisioned was creating a model of community care grounded in collective interdependence that will create a foundation for participants to be sustained in their resistance work. We understand that leaders need to experience a culture of interconnectedness and to be nurtured through right relationships so that there can be life sustaining and life-giving strategies for them to be able to carry on their work. So we use restorative, transformative, and healing justice as a model, and we explore tools for how we get to show up in community and in practices in ways that allowed space for healing in ways that built our community. We engaged in soul and spirit tending, right? Because we are holistic beings. And we created intergenerational spaces for all of us to be able to learn based on our experiences in this life. And in those spaces, we were able to experience care, nurturing, and watering of practitioners so that they're always able to sustain their ongoing work for freedom and liberation. But how do we do this? So we started out with an opening retreat, and this 3-day in-person retreat was created to gather and heal all practitioners and community. Participants engaged in peacemaking circles and established positive relationships with themselves, their peers, and looking at what that looks like in their work environments, right? To better develop a culture of connectivity. Participants identified and shared their visions and needs for healing and care and what they hope to accomplish during the time to sustain their freedom work. That was followed up with monthly online sessions virtually that allowed practitioners and grantees to be able to check in from wherever they were, no matter what was happening. And this was a space focused on their holistic well-being as leaders. And so it was a drop-in space for them to land and be cared for and to be seen. It was a space of gathering, healing, and also breakthrough because they were all sharing stories about what was happening in their real lives. And that was medicine, that was healing for the other practitioners included. We also created space to practice collective care and leadership in real time. And so these workshops were offered to organizational leaders for them to learn the tools and different modalities of care and self-healing so that they were able to practice it for themselves, but also take it back to their larger work communities and home life so that their practices are sustained and in constant practice. And last but not least, we provided virtual and in-person coaching sessions and check-ins for participants to address personal and professional challenges and opportunities. And this is really so that no one feels like they're walking this journey alone, right? We can all be sustained as long as we feel like we are connected into community. And so this was our approach and our recipe to creating Who Keeps the Keeper.
So we're now 6 months into the program, and we can report that we're already seeing positive outcomes for our participants. Over 70% of our participants are applying strategies from Who Keeps the Keeper to support their colleagues through things like sharing meditation and circle keeping practices. We have participants who are helping younger staff members with goal setting. And we also see a number of our participants engaging with facilitators from Who Keeps the Keeper to bring them into their organization to facilitate programs. We also see over 80% of our participants report having a positive work-life balance. Over 90% of our participants report feeling like they can meet the demands of their job. And 45% of participants report rarely or almost never feeling burned out despite being loaded with responsibilities. So that just shows that the tools and the strategies from Who Keeps the Keeper is helping them to maintain and sustain themselves in the reality of this work. One of our most important findings is that 91% of participants report feeling positive about their future in the field. We see this outcome as an opportunity. The first year of Who Keeps the Keeper is a first step, really, in scaling supports to frontline workers to help them extend their tenure in the nonprofit sector. Philanthropy can play a critical role in helping to expand such support by making a commitment to strengthening the movement leaders and the frontline staff of the organizations it funds, by increasing investment and having separate funds for grantee support that are not tied to funding outcomes. And finally, by selecting leaders with direct experience to lead the movement to heal the healers.
We understand Who Keeps the Keeper to be grounded in the work of self-care, but not just for self, but self-care as it relates to community. One of the participants says that I make attending the in-person Who Keeps the Keeper sessions a priority. So I put them on my calendar, just like I put my work-related task on the calendar. I try not to treat self-care as optional, but rather as necessary. And that allows us to continuously be reminded of the words of Audre Lorde when she says that caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. Who Keeps the Keeper wants to emphasize for practitioners, for participants, for activists, not just being warriors, but being also healers and having space to be healed. And so we're reminded of the words of Dr. Fanya Davis when she tells us, healers and warriors are not opposites, they are complementaries. Moving beyond binary, we need not embrace one and reject the other. We can hold them both as one. We are reminding philanthropists to not only expect practitioners and grantees to be warriors in their work, but to also create space for them to be healers and to be healed, because that is life-sustaining and that is life-giving.